All right, today I'm going to talk about something that I think every student here should know about, and it's how the curriculum at the Jungle Gym was designed. So there's something called the classical model of education. Who's familiar with that? Nerds. The classical model of education is a sort of a function of teaching, of transferring information to students that is usually divided into three stages. All right? You have grammar, you have logic, and you have rhetoric. Now in these three stages, three very, very important phases are sort of traveled by the student that are very, very necessary. Let's say we're learning a language. Right? The first thing we do is we learn vocabulary. Right? We learn the way or what words mean. We learn different sounds. We learn what the numbers are, things that maybe we're familiar with, how they're expressed in this certain language. Right? And that's the first stage. The equivalent to that is our foundations class. We're learning actual moves. We are acquiring the tools necessary to move along to the next stage of learning. That next stage, which is logic, is how these tools that we've just acquired work together. Right? So the way that we would do it with a language is we know the vocabulary. Well, now we're going to learn how to express complex thoughts. We're going to learn how to express them properly, improperly, right? Something called syntax, right? The way that the sentences are constructed to be able to effectively communicate the idea you're trying to. Well, what does that mean in terms of how we train? Well, now it's what move should I be doing from this position? Why is this move better from this position than this other move I'm thinking of? How do I sort of line these moves up so that they logically follow a progression towards what I'm trying to accomplish, right? And how do we see that in the school? We see that in the pad work classes. We see that in some of the drilling, some of the combinations that we learn, right, in different formatted classes. And finally, the last stage, rhetoric, is when we take all of these things we've learned, when we take all the tools that we've acquired, we take the knowledge and the experience of knowing what works together, and we finally learn how to express ourselves individually, right? So when you hear the term rhetoric, right, it's two people trying to persuade each other of a position, trying to influence or inform somebody. And how does that play out here in the Jungle Gym? How does that play out in martial arts in general? Well, it's the type of martial artist you want to be. When somebody rolls with me, the experience you're going to get, it's much different than if somebody were to roll with Alex, right? Somebody were to roll with Goose. Different body types, different expressions, different goals, different missions. If you go to some schools, there are sports schools. They'll teach, pull and guard, as an example. Well, we do not allow pull and guard here. But it's important to understand we don't allow pull and guard here because of our mission, right? What we're trying to accomplish. What is logical for us, right, that second stage, what is logical for us is not congruent with the tool, right, of pull and guard. But if you're somebody who's looking just to do sport competitions and allow that to be the identity of your training, it kind of makes sense. We look at sport competitions and there are too many people who are really, really good who pull guard all the time to say that pull and guard never works. Well, what the mission is very important. Okay? So we know that we are a school that basically trains violence. All right? We don't train defense. All right? Self-defense is a weak term. We've discussed that before. If somebody were to attack us, right, the normal position is, well, we need to learn self-defense in order to deal with somebody attacking us. But if you really think about it, if somebody's attacking us, what do we want to do? We want to attack them back. Right? So there's attack and there's counterattack. Right? It's not self-defense. If anything, it's counterattack. It might sound like a semantical, argument, or it doesn't matter one or the other, but words mean things. Right? If we're talking about getting back to the classical model of education, it's important that all of these things are congruent, all these things line up. So we've had people who have come here and have said, you know what, this isn't a school for me. I don't like punching, I don't like getting hit, I don't like, all these uncomfortable positions. And it's important that when they're training here, them acting like that is mocked, right? We make fun of people who act like that. Why? Because we cannot allow the mission of the school to change. But it's also important to understand there are going to be times where people have acquired different tools, are following a different logic, and they have a different mission. And it's that congruence that we're not only trying to look out for here, but actually create and design by the curriculum of the school. So when I see guys, and now what does this mean to you guys? It's like, all right, all that's great information, but I'm just showing up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays and doing what's there. What you'll see, and this is where guys will start getting recruited and go, oh, that makes sense. As soon as you guys make the mastery program, stop coming to foundations classes. As soon as you guys get into warrior, you'd rather spar than do pad work. I can't tell you how many times when I'm looking at sparring, I'm watching guys throw punches and I try to get them to see this themselves, or else it doesn't even matter if I say anything to them. But they'll throw punches that if they were to take that punch and actually perform it on a heavy bag, it would look and even feel ridiculous for them. But because they don't have the tools developed enough, because they haven't taken these tools and addressed them logically to the point where they know where they're appropriate, they don't even have the means by which they can express themselves rhetorically with these moves. Does this make sense? Are you guys sort of tracking? Nobody really looks confused, which is a good thing, but maybe I'm not paying attention properly. Right? So it's important that not only we understand that the end goal or the end result of this training is being able to express yourself on one end. These are the people who, I just like showing up, once or twice, or people who stay in foundations forever. No, that's good enough for me. It's like saying, I'm just going to stay in kindergarten. I really like finger painting. Right? I'm not going to move out of my mother's house. My laundry's done every single day. There needs to be that pressure to progress, but also, looking at it from the opposite end, there should always be that pressure, Jason. There should always be that pressure to make sure we're doing the work necessary to have those tools developed to even make that last stage possible. All right? We'll end it there. Thank you, guys.